Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, I'm basically just gonna show you how I trade day to day. So before I even look at the charts, I always try to check news, see if there's any news, try to see, how the fundamentals are looking, how the high impact news has been, stuff like that. I even check this Trump tracker, which shows like if he has meetings coming up while the market is open. But I mostly use this website just to look at high impact news. You can do that by looking at Forex Factory as well. But yeah, once I check if there's news or not, in today's case, there's no high impact news. Then what I do is I zoom out on the bigger time frame and I just mark out important levels like all time highs if we're really close to that, which looking at the markets, I was gonna say, looking at the markets, we're not that close to all time highs, especially since we've had this nasty sell off overnight. But yeah, I usually just mark down supply and demand levels on the bigger time frame. That's the goal. And then whatever zones I mark down, then I like to zoom out and look at if there is support and resistance on the bigger time frame. So really quick, I'm gonna mark down all the zones that I see. We have a bunch of demand on our way down, which is good. That means I'm going to have good areas of interest to look at. All right. So now that I have all the zones marked out, what I like to do is I like to zoom out and then I draw these lines on these zones. And what these lines are going to be is I want proof of interest around this area. Right. And proof of interest for me is that we've rejected it like that, and then we've also bounced off of it. So that's what I'm looking for. With this 30-minute supply zone here, we've bounced off of it. We've also rejected it multiple times. And we've bounced off of it as well. Really good area of interest, this 30-minute zone. The only thing wrong with this 30-minute zone is that it's kind of far away, but it kind of seems like the market has a lot of volatility over this overnight session. So that might bleed into New York Open, which is good. This other zone I have marked down, which is below price right now, is this 1 hour demand zone. We have bounced off of it over here. Another bounce off of it. We have rejections off of this area. And I mean, these aren't perfect rejections, but I will say the newest price action definitely looks cleaner on this area. So that's good. Yeah, now that I have all the zones marked out, I kind of have an idea of what zones I want to trade around. So I definitely want to trade off of this 30-minute zone and then off of this 1 hour demand zone. So if I miss trades that are off of this zone, or this one, what I could do is I could take trades that are going up to the zone, right? Because at the end of the day, what I think about is how these areas are like magnets to the market. You know, we've bounced off of it, we've rejected these areas. So that's what I'm going to be waiting for. We have about 10 more minutes for market to open. So we'll see. I don't like to place trades during pre-market, but yeah, something that I've noticed as well is, hold on, let me get my indicator here. There we go. Something that I've noticed and that I look at a lot is how the overnight session has moved. And obviously, we've been moving down. And not only have we been moving down, but ever since the market opened, we can see right here the market opened right around here. We've gone straight down 3%. Sorry, I started 3%. And if you don't know, 3% overnight is a pretty big move. I mean, we've almost moved down 4,000 ticks, right? Or 1,000 points. which is a pretty big overnight session. So, usually when I see this, I'm thinking, okay, there's most likely going to be a pullback during New York Open. Unless we start breaking below these levels down here. If we break below these levels down here, then I'm going to be say, okay, wow, this bearish market is going to continue to sell off, right? But I will say it's kind of rare for the market to continue to sell off after it sold off a lot overnight, but it's very possible and it has happened recently. I think it was like 2, 3 Fridays ago. The overnight session sold off, and then New York session sold off even more. I think we could see it on this. Yeah, right here, this daily candle here. Huge daily candle. I mean, if we measure this, market had went down 5.2%. So now that I look at this other daily candle, it definitely could go down just as low as this other day. But like I said, it's kind of rare that that happens. But you just have to keep an open mind about it and just read what price tells you. So right now, I'm not trying to predict the market. I'm just trying to see how it opens up and how it reacts to my levels. Something else that I like to check as well is VWAP. Right now I have VWAP with the other three bands, but usually I just look at the regular VWAP, which right now we can see we haven't touched up on VWAP for over almost 12 hours. So usually when I see that, I'm thinking New York Open wants to touch up on VWAP. That's definitely a possibility, but again, it could continue to just sell off. But yeah, usually I also have just my VWAP, but I have actually been using, not using, but just having it on my screen. I have been using this, the other three VWAPs, the other two VWAPs, the bands. And I don't really use them for anything. Like I don't use them for, direction or anything. They're just kind of there for me to look at them. What I have noticed is that price does stick around, the bands. They don't get too far away from them. But yeah, they're just kind of there for me to look at them. Also, if you used to watch me like a couple months ago, I always had like white lines on my screen, and that would be like support and resistance. But now I don't mark my white lines. What I do instead is I just mark down supply and demand, because at the end of the day, um the entries that I take are around my zones, right? And if they're not around my zones, then it's a late entry. And I don't want to take late entries because those are lower quality setups. So now I just focus more on taking trades around my zones, and that's really it. Yeah, we got about 5 more minutes for markets open, so we'll see what happens. Okay, it has been a couple hours later. For some reason, I've been having issues with my camera, so the footage that I recorded, my camera's not in there. So I'm gonna be explaining the trades that I took, and as you could see, the way the markets played out was kind of just how I expected it to. Obviously there is no direction, right? Yes, the longs came in and this was a very decent move, but when we look at New York session, it wasn't like a trending session, which isn't surprising because again, the overnight session sold off quite a bit. It's a pretty crazy overnight session. Let me know if you caught any of this sell off. I wouldn't be surprised if you did. But yeah, you could see how the zones played out as well. So you could have gotten longs off of this zone. And honestly, even though it was a really good, strong opening, like the first 15 minutes, the opening range was almost 200 points, which is pretty big, not gonna lie. And I tried longing it down here because I saw that we tapped very close to this 50% line. And then actually, this is wrong. The entry was right here. As soon as we broke this 1 minute wick here, then I got in long, and then immediately I hit over a 1 to 2. But I was trying to go for I think it was like 81 points. And I knew this would have hit because again, I was targeting VWAP. Whoops, wrong one. I was targeting VWAP and then also my golden zone, my other golden zone. Like I said, if you don't take trades off the golden zone, you could target the golden zone, right? Or the next area of interest, which for me was this 15-minute supply zone. Um, but yeah, I took this long here and I got stopped out break even. And I noticed that the price action wasn't the best. So I was like, all right, let me wait for the 15-minute candle to close and see if if the price action clears up after that. So the 15-minute candle closed, and then I saw buying pressure continuing. I saw us staying above this VWAP level. And then I saw this 1 minute candle close. I saw this retest here as well. This is basically like a break and retest. We see a 1 minute candle closing above the opening range line. And then the next couple candles open up. We retest the opening range and then we bounce. So after I saw that, I took another long. Okay. And for this long, I decided to size down. So the goal was to size down on this and then have a wider stop with a wider take profit, and I was going to target VWAP again because I had confluences that the market was going to go up to this area. The confluences include VWAP plus this golden zone that I have. Um but after I hit a 1 to 1, I got stopped out break even. So I was like, okay, wow, that's tough. I'm still very bullish on this again because I think the market could get up to this level. So I was like, let me try one more time. Usually max trades I take is 3 to 4 max trades. So I was like, all right, let me try one more time. But this time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a tight stop loss and then a quicker take profit. So my take profit was actually around here, and that was it. And this was actually probably the best play. Now, obviously, the best play was in reality, it was like all the way down here. But in order for me to get like a entry confirmation to take the long, I need to see like at least a 1 minute wick break, right? And for this case, the 1 minute wick break was right there. Mind you, these 1 minute candlesticks are over 100 points. So either I was gonna size down, right? And if I size down, then my stop loss could have been like all the way down here. But honestly, I don't like doing that. I'm a bit more of a scalper. So I was like, let me have a quick entry with a tighter stop. And what that allowed me to do was to hit take profit too very quickly, but get stopped out quicker as well. So that's the only downside. But I mean, the whole point of this video is to kind of show you how I find the best zones. Now, mind you, um, I would say like in the beginning of the year, I wasn't really focused on finding the best zones to take a trade off from. I was kind of just trading off whatever zone I could find. And that was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've gotten $80,000 in payouts this year so far, and that's over, I think that's about 40 payouts, separately. And that was fine. Obviously, it's giving me great results. But what I realized was that I was taking lower quality setups. So this month specifically, I've been more focused on trying to find these golden zones, right? So like these supply and demand zones that are really, really clean. And not only that, but what zones are the best areas to take the trades off from, or what zones are the best to target, right? So for me, and again, I'll do a really quick recap. The pattern that I want to see, and yes, this is not 100% win rate. Like I have lost this month, but I will admit when I lose trades, it was because, and I remember I think it was on last week on Thursday. I took a trade and it wasn't off of a zone that I called my golden zone. It was off of a US 30 zone that just showed up quicker. And then what ended up happening was on NASDAQ, on the zone that I said was the best zone to take a trade from, it played out perfectly. And I was like, wow, I should just stick to these zones that I know have a higher percent of playing out, right? Or have a higher chance of the market having a really decent reaction off of it. But anyways, I'll go over the pattern really quick, right? So usually I have a couple zones marked out, boom, boom, boom. Um, and again, like what I used to do was not kind of randomly trade, right, off of the zones. But what I used to do is the first setup that showed up, I would take it. And like I said, like that was fine. But what I've realized is that I've been taking lower quality setups because I've been so zoomed in. So then I was like, okay, I have to zoom out and have proof of interest of the zones that I take trades from. And that proof of interest has to be on the bigger time frame if I want a decent move. Right. So what I did was, okay, I mean, I want to keep this shit simple. I don't want to overcomplicate it, by using order flow or any other concepts. I want to keep it simple. So what I decided to do was just let me zoom out and see how price has been outside of this, you know, or not outside, but in the zone. So what I decided on was, okay, I'm going to stick to support and resistance because I've already been doing that. So now what I look for is, so I have a couple zones marked out, and then what I like to do is I like to draw a zone, not a zone, but a line on the zones. And then what I'm looking for in these areas, I'm looking for price to do something like this. So I want price to reject this area, but then I also want price to bounce off of this area. And this is exactly what I want to see on the bigger time frame, specifically the 1 hour time frame, right? Yes, of course, on the 4 hour time frame you could see it, but right now I'm just looking at the 1 hour and I want to see that pattern. Let me zoom out. So this is what I'm looking for. If I see this around the zone that I have marked out, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw this out golden. And sorry, I don't know why I have this here. Let me erase that. So I usually try to look for two golden zones, if not more, right? Because if price moves a lot, then I could take trades off of it. But once I have my golden zones, what I could do is I could, take a trade off of the zone, or I could take a trade targeting the zone, right? And in today's case, you could have done both, right? Let's zoom out and look. So in today's case, I took a trade off of the zone. Now, I'm not gonna lie, my entries technically they were late, but I think they played out really well only because I knew where the market wanted to go. Right? I had a lot of confluences for being bullish on this and for targeting this area. So you could have taken longs to the zone. You could have taken a long off of the zone. That was definitely the best play. And I tried to, but damn, was crazy volatile, so I got stopped out. But I still had a lot of confluences to be bullish, so I kept trying longs, and it played out eventually to the zone. Now, if you miss this whole leg up, right, which is definitely possible, what you could have done was you could have waited for price to wait to see how it reacts to this golden zone up here. How does it react to this 30-minute supply zone? Well, if you see on the 5 minute time frame, we never closed above this 50% line. Um, so technically you could have taken short here as well, right? And that played out really well. I mean, almost damn 1,000 ticks. That's crazy. What's another trade idea? Okay, if you missed both of these moves, you technically you could have taken a long here as well, right? There's a lot of opportunity, but what I've seen is the market definitely plays out the best, I would say, right at New York Open, and that's just what I'm used to, so that's what I do, right? But for you, it could be different. Um, Another good example of this is yesterday's trade. Yesterday, I actually ended up taking shorts off of this 2-hour supply zone. Um, Around this area as well, there was a 1-hour supply zone, which I'll mark out really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, let's look at yesterday's trade. Yesterday, yeah, yesterday was very quick. Yesterday was crazy. Um, so yesterday the market opened up and we opened up around this golden zone that I had marked out. Now, if we zoom out on the zone, again, how did I know this was the best area of interest? Well, if you mark out the line right around the zone, again, market is not going to be perfect, but you can see we've rejected it back here, and then we also have bounced off of it right here. Again, it's not perfect, but you see multiple reactions off of this area. So not only that, but I mean, of course, this area here, the one that created the supply. The dogs are barking, so I'm going to finish this up. But let me show you the trade. So boom, market opened up, and I remember I actually tried shorting it down here. So I was like, okay, wow, we touched up on this zone here. Let me take off this indicator. So we ended up touching up on the golden zone, and immediately we dumped. So I was like, okay, this is going to continue. Let me short it. And the entry on the short was, I'll put this on replay mode so I don't have to scroll like crazy. The entry that I took was off of this 15-minute supply zone, or sorry, demand zone, right? And the reason I took this breakout here was because I saw that the markets were rejecting this area. Now, I did take a loss on this trade, right? Obviously, it's kind of a bit of a late entry. So I got stopped out and I was like, okay. Also, technically for this trade, I could have broken even, but I also wanted it to breathe. So I was like, all right, I got stopped out. Let me wait. Markets looks like it's heading up. I waited for the market to not only retest the zone, but also retest this 50% line. And then immediately once we tap this 50% line, I remember I put a short entry on this 1 minute wick, and then immediately it got hit. My stop loss was at the highs. And then I just targeted, I think it was like a 1 to 4. I targeted the 800s, which was this 15-minute demand zone that I actually tried shorting before. But again, this trade played out very quickly. And even though this was not the top of the day, the way the market plays out afterwards, the zone was clearly the top of the day. Like it, I mean, this could be the top of the week, right? But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, even though I haven't really gotten a payout in a little over 2 months, and there's a couple reasons for that reason. Or there's a couple reasons for that, right? I haven't been as focused as before. I've been focused on other businesses. And obviously I can say a bunch of excuses, but at the end of the day, I would say there's two main reasons to why I haven't gotten payouts. Number one, my risk management hasn't been as tight as it used to be. Now, this month it has been. I do have a couple payouts lining up that I should get soon. But yeah, my risk management hasn't been as tight, and then about like after I got my 240K payouts, it was very bad for me because the markets were at all-time highs, and it was like the trades that I would take like made zero sense. They made sense to me, but when I took the trade, it was like the market would do some bullshit, right? Like it would chop up, it would just fake me out. And then I was like, okay, I have to do something about this because the trades that I'm taking are low probability, and I can't just blame it on the markets oh, we're at all-time high, so that's why I'm losing. I can't blame it on that because that's a horrible excuse. If anything, I should learn how to adapt to the markets when they are at all-time highs because the markets are at all-time highs almost every single year, right? So I have to get used to that. So what I did was, okay, I have to figure out what zones I'm going to take the trades off from. I have to figure out what are higher probability zones. And again, what I did was just I zoomed out on the 1 hour time frame, and then I was like, okay, I need proof that the zones that I take trades from are good, right? How can I do that? I look on the bigger time frame and see if how the market has reacted off of these zones. And again, the pattern that I look for is, I'll show you really quick. Where is it? Is right here, right? I need a zone. Look all the way to the left, and I want to see this right here on the bigger time frame. Um, Another thing that I've noticed, and you probably have too, is okay, Leah, hold up. All right, I'm back. My dog wanted to come in here, but another thing that I've noticed is not only the pattern that I kind of trade off from, but a lot of New York openings have a bottom and a top, right? It either buys up from somewhere or it sells off from somewhere. And what I've noticed is most of the time it either buys up from a support area, right? Support slash demand, or it sells off from a resistance or supply, right? And if you don't know, supply and demand are basic sorry. Supply and demand and support and resistance are basically the same thing, right? It, support is where price bounces off from, and in order for it to bounce off, it needs aggressive buying, right? And what is demand? Demand is an area where there's aggressive buying. So they're the same thing. And then if they're the same thing, then you know what else is the same thing? Where is it? Let me look for it. You know what else is the same thing? Um, Support and resistance are the same thing, right? If you have an area of resistance, eventually we break past it and it turns into support. With supply and demand, it, it is the same thing, right? Over here, you probably had aggressive selling. And then eventually, when we broke off of it, eventually it turns into aggressive buying, right? You understand what I'm saying? And obviously before I knew this, but like I didn't really implement it into my trading. Okay, I again like before I kind of just traded off of zones, and that was really good, but you can always make your trading better, and I wanted to do that. And the way that I've done that is just again by looking at the bigger time frame and seeing proof of interest at these zones. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. These past 2 days, I have not been streaming for personal reasons, but I will be back tomorrow. I'll be back in better. Hold on. Leo now wants to get out of the room. So hold on. All right, I'm back. But anyways, I hope this video wasn't too long. I just wanted kind of to upgrade, not upgrade, but just keep you guys updated on kind of it's not really a new way of looking at the markets. It's kind of the same thing, but now it's more structured. It's a more structured way for me to look at the markets. And the good thing with trading is that everyone is going to be different. Everyone's going to be different. Just like in real life, right? Everyone's different in real life. Everyone likes different things. With trading is the same way, right? This makes sense to me and it might make sense for other people, but for some people it might not make sense at all. For me it does. It's very simple, right? I mark out my supply and demand zones, and then I look to see if those supply and demand zones have had interest on the bigger time frame. If they have, then I call it a golden zone, and I either aim to take a trade off the zone or take a trade aiming towards the zone. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. Like and subscribe.